Hi, everyone. I am Heidi Rojek, co-owner of Capital Books in downtown Sacramento. Welcome to the virtual event of author Laura Jensen Walker. She is the author of 18 books. Murder Most Sweet is her first cozy mystery. She's going to be joined by Eileen Rendahl, who's also authored 17 books. She's going to be tossing questions over to Laura at the end of the event. If you have a question for Laura, please don't hesitate to type it in the question box. You'll see that down below. Catriona McPherson is also with us tonight, and she is another Sacramento author. She's going to be interviewing Laura, and Catriona is also the author of 25 books herself. So we're super excited to have these authors. We've been able to have them all in our bookstore pre-COVID, and it's been super fun to have them in the store, but now we're able to cast a wider net virtually, so it's not all a bad thing. Some of you who are not local to Sacramento are able to join us this evening through technology. If you do not have Murder Most Sweet already, I encourage you to purchase it from Capital Books. You'll be supporting a local bookstore, and that will enable us to keep bringing you awesome other events like this tonight. So with that, I am going to toss it over to, let's see, Catriona next. Here you go.
Thank you, Heidi. Hi, everybody. I'm looking at this sidebar here. So many people here. So I'm going to formally introduce Laura, and then I'm going to interview her, but I'm guessing that I won't be trying to think up quick-fire questions because I'm sure she's got a lot to say about this this book. But let me introduce Laura to start with. I'm going to be channeling Mary Poppins tonight. I am so determined to be brave and jolly and not cry that we're not there, because there's such a heeker of a silver lining. There's so many people here that couldn't be there, all gathered to say congratulations, well done, and thank you to Laura for launching this fabulous debut cozy mystery, Murder Most Sweet. I'm glad Eileen's here as well, because Eileen and I think met Laura at the same time. This unknown woman called Laura got in touch with the both of us to say, let's have coffee. I want to pick your brains because I'm thinking of writing a cozy mystery. And I thought, I'm speaking for Eileen here. I thought, well, I like coffee. I like women. I don't mind people called Laura. Well, why not? But I did sort of expect to be maybe disappointing someone who had all sorts of fluffy notions about publishing, and I was going to just stick a hat pin in her bubble. Or I thought I'd be backing away from someone trying to give me a manuscript in a carrier bag. Right, Eileen? I mean, it has happened. Au contraire, this woman called Laura turned out to be a former journalist and an already published author with a terrific idea and a really terrific work ethic. So it is no kind of surprise whatsoever to be here tonight as Murder Most Sweet heads down the slips. And it's only mildly surprising that there's another series beginning next year and a memoir coming next week. But tonight isn't particularly about me chuntering on. Tonight is about this lovely woman, her humour, her talent, her courage, and the thoroughly enjoyable mystery fiction she's conjuring up out of her very interesting life. So I'm going to go ahead and hand you over to Laura Jensen Walker, who can either just begin talking because she's the boss tonight, not me, or could answer my first question, which is, why a cozy? Where did it come from? What brought you to that coffee shop all those years ago where you met Eileen and me?
Okay, thanks, Catriona. And I will go ahead and answer your question.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah.
Laura, your video cut out.
Oh. Uh-oh.
There you go. There you go. You're back. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
So, Catriona, I'll answer your question. The reason I decided to write a cozy, I had written all these books way back in the day, took about an 11-year break, and wanted to write fiction again. I used to write chick lit. And those of you who don't know what chicklet is, think Bridget Jones' Diary. That's the kind of stuff I used to write. Frothy and light and fun. I do humor. And I have a dear author friend, and I said, I really want to write something else, but I don't want to do chicklet anymore. She goes, oh my God, you would be so perfect at writing cozy mysteries, writing a mystery. And I actually laughed out loud, and I went, I couldn't write a mystery because it's all about plot. And I'm dreadful at plotting. Well, actually, what I said was, excuse me, I suck at plotting, is what I said. And she said, no. I know. And she said, I'm going to ask you to reframe that and just say, I've never plotted a mystery before. What a thought. And so she put that idea in my head. I just started thinking about it, and I came up with an idea. And so then I contacted a mutual friend of Catriona and Eileen's named Matt Holland, who I used to work with. And I said,
Oh,
yeah. And I said,
right.
Matt, you told me about this friend named Catriona who writes mysteries. I don't know anybody else who writes mysteries, and I feel like the Lone Ranger. Could you introduce me? And that's how that began. And I just didn't know that much. I went to the bookstore, looked at other cozies, and went, oh, it's character driven. Yes, you must have a plot, but it's very character driven and it's very funny. I said, ooh, I can do funny. I can do character. Now I just got to work on the plot. And that's how it all began.
So did you read mysteries?
Oh, God, yes. Since the 4th grade, when I started reading Trixie Belden. I'm from Racine, Wisconsin, which years ago was home to Western Printing, which published Trixie Belden mysteries. And my aunt worked in the printing department and would bring them home hot off the assembly line and give me a Trixie Belden. And so that's where it all began. And I've always loved mysteries. I just never thought that I could plot one. And thank God I can. Yay. This is your time to say, yes, of course you can. And it was amazing and fabulous.
Yes, you absolutely can. You absolutely can. There is no sign in there that you are a pantser. I mean, it's perfectly okay to be a pantser. It's perfectly okay to be a plotter, but you shouldn't be able to tell when the book's published, right?
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Okay, now you have to tell people what a pantser is.
Oh, you tell. No, it's your night. You tell people. I'm not doing it.
I'll tell everybody what a pantser is. So there's usually 2 kinds of writers, and that's the plotters, who are very organized and methodical, and they have it all plotted out. I even knew somebody who did a spreadsheet once. We won't go there, but that's okay. I have never been that. I've always been somebody who shows up, sits. I have an idea of how I want the book to start. I have an idea sort of where I think it's going to end. And then I just show up and I start writing, and it just unfolds organically. And that's what happens. My husband, it made him crazy. He'd say, Laura, because I would rewrite 6, 7, 8 times. He says, wouldn't it be faster if you plotted it ahead of time? I said, yes, if I could plot, it would, but I can't. Every time I would try and I'd think, oh, well, I think this will happen. And I'd even write some scenes near the end of the book. I'd get there and they were a mess. So I don't do it. I'm a total seat of the pants writer. It's a surprise to me as much as it is to the reader. And I love it. That's what makes it fun.
So avoiding spoilers and protecting that surprise, do you want to say a little bit about Murder Most Sweet, and then I don't know, do you want to read a little bit? Do you want to talk a bit about that book in particular, and then read a bit? I'd like that.
Sure. Okay, I have a bit. Yeah. So Murder Most Sweet, it's set in the fictional town of Lake Pottawatomie, Wisconsin. And I still have that Wisconsin accent. Can you hear it? Wisconsin. It's that very nasal accent. I was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin, which is home of Johnson's Wax, all sorts of other factories, and the best Danish pastries in the world, including kringle, which plays a big part in my book. And so I kind of wanted to do a nostalgic tribute to my hometown, but also I had a grandmother, Grandma Florence Jorgensen, and I actually put her name in the book. And she baked the most amazing treats. And every day after school, we'd go to her house and have these delicious treats. And I thought, ooh, if I'm going to write a mystery and set it in a small town in Wisconsin, I have to have food, and I have to have all these Danish cookies and pastries and treats. And so that's what I decided I wanted to do. And yet at the same time, thank God, I am happy to say that I'm a 28-year breast cancer survivor. And 5 years ago, I had my second mastectomy, which is when I chose to go flat. It's like, I'm not going to have fake boobs. I'm not doing it. I'm just going to be flat. And that's how it is. And you know what? I had never seen a woman like that in a cozy mystery. I wonder why. So I just thought, I'd like to see someone like me in a cozy mystery. And that's how I created the character of Teddy St. John. So when the book starts, Teddy, who, by the way, she's loosely based on me. Yes, she and I are both breast cancer survivors, but Teddy is only 43. I'm 63. So she's 20 years younger, and she's single. I'm married, but she also writes cozy mysteries, and she's an amazing baker. I cannot bake to save my life. So the baking part came from my grandma's recipe book and my husband, Michael, my Renaissance man, who's an amazing baker. And so at the beginning of the book, Teddy's getting ready to go to the local bookstore because they have this fabulous New York Times best-selling English author, because I'm an Anglophile and I love everything English. And I wish I could speak with an accent, but that's one of the reasons I wanted Catriona. She's not English, she's Scottish, but I love accents from the UK. But I wanted a character who was a Brit who looked a bit like Colin Firth. And I wanted him to be a male possible love interest. So I brought him in, and in the first chapter, Teddy is getting ready. She's going over to the bookstore to go to the signing for the suspense author. And I'm going to read a bit now. This is she's arrived at the bookstore. She's brought all the treats except for her friend, Shar, who owns the bookstore, brought Kringle and some other Danish treats, but Teddy brought all the cookies. So they're now at the bookstore in Lake Potawatomi as Tavish Bentley, this English best-selling suspense author, is about to do his signing. And then his assistant is taking him over to the platform. So I'm just going to read a bit from that. Melanie led the celebrated author over to his adoring public, who burst into applause as he approached the podium. Tavish Bentley smiled and lifted his hand in a brief wave to the assembled audience. A gorgeous blonde in a red bandage dress, who looked like she belonged in the Baywatch reboot, jumped up and waved back, the sunlight streaming in the window and reflecting off the massive rock on her left hand. His fiancée, Sharon whispered. I met her earlier when she stopped by the lake house looking for Tavish. She said they'd had a fight and she'd come to make up with him. Shar grunted as she scrutinized the Baywatch babe. Such a cliche. Rich, hot guy our age hooks up with 20-something blonde bimbo who's clearly had a boob job. We don't know that, I said. What, that she's had a boob job? No, that she's a bimbo. The breasts are definitely fake. They didn't jiggle when she jumped up. My close encounter with the silicone kind after my first mastectomy 5 years ago had given me the inside track on what is natural versus surgically enhanced. Lying down, my real breast, like those of every other woman who has not had work done, flattened out and dropped to the side, while the doctor-constructed one always stood proudly at attention. As a result, I can spot fake boobs poolside at 50 paces. Case in point, the platinum, spiky-haired, giggling millennial sitting next to Tavish's fiance. Side by side, the two women looked like the Boobsy twins. We headed to the seats Mom had saved for us in the front row, but halfway there, a hot flash from hell hit that made me want to strip off all my clothes instantly. Thank you, chemo, for sending me into early menopause. Deciding that flashing the entire bookstore might not be in anyone's best interest, I made a quick detour to the restroom instead, unwinding my scarf before the door fully closed behind me. Once inside, I yanked off the constricting turquoise silk and dropped it at the oak top of the long antique dresser Shar had converted into a bathroom vanity. Then I hurried to the sink, lifted up my white cotton dress with turquoise embroidery that had all at once become an electric blanket turned on high, and splashed myself with cold water. I don't know if there's any women going through menopause in the audience, but if you've been there, you know what we're talking about. Repeatedly. Not until the splashing became a drenching did I finally feel some relief. Thankfully, after my second mastectomy, I'd given up bras and those heavy silicone breast forms many cancer survivors stuff inside their brasiers. Otherwise, I would not have been responsible for my actions. I'd have yanked those puppies out in full view of God and everyone and thrown them like a frisbee. I might have shot someone's eye out, or at least knocked them down for the count. Hearing the squeaky doorknob turn, I quickly dropped my dress back down and scuttled into one of the 2 stalls as the door opened. Too bad I didn't have the requisite equipment to enter a wet t-shirt contest. I would have won hands down. My cotton dress clung to my wet body like a second skin, highlighting every curve, lump, and bump, including my concave chest. Not having had time to grab any paper towels before the unknown woman entered, I tried drying myself off with toilet paper, leaving me looking like I had a bad case of TP chickenpox. It doesn't get any better than this. As I heard the taps turn on, I decided to take the plunge. "Excuse me, could you please hand me some paper towels over the top of the stall?" The taps turned off. "Hello? You there?" A rustle of silk, the faint scent of jasmine. "Bueller? Anybody?" The door squeaked again. "What are you doing here?" an unfamiliar female voice growled. "I'm here to get Tavish back," an indistinct voice said. "There's no way he'll take you back. Besides, he's mine now." "Well, we'll see about that." "Over my dead body." The things one learns in the ladies' room. I cleared my throat to make my presence known. The door opened and slammed shut. Then silence. Waiting a moment, I cautiously exited the stall into an empty restroom. Who were those 2 women? Sounded like a former girlfriend of the famous author might be trying to encroach on his fiance's territory. As I plucked my wet dress away from my skin in a feeble attempt to dry it, a few of the toilet paper dots dropped to the floor. Grabbing some paper towels, I blotted my dress, trying ineffectively to dry it out. Great. Now I had shredded brown paper dots sticking all over me. I flashed back to that gorgeous brown and white polka dotted dress Julia Roberts wore at the polo match in Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman. Okay, sorry. I checked the mirror. Yeah, not even close. I looked more like a giraffe mated with one of those frizzy-headed goats. I sighed. The only thing to do was cover as much of my wet t-shirt giraffe dress with my scarf as possible, then unobtrusively slip out the back door and make a run for it. Luckily, my house was only 2 blocks away. I moved to grab my silk scarf from the end of the vanity where I tossed it in the heat of the hot flash moment. Not there. I checked the other end of the vanity. Not there either. Had it slipped and fallen to the floor? I checked, but didn't see any turquoise atop the wide planked wooden floors. Maybe it had fallen into the wastebasket. Nope. I searched the whole bathroom. Nada. My turquoise scarf with the whimsical pom-poms on the ends had disappeared. Then I remembered the rustle of silk. Not disappeared, stolen. No wonder the jasmine-scented mystery woman hadn't answered my paper towel plea. She was too busy stealing one of my favorite scarves. And that's it for the bit. Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I'd forgotten how funny that was. Okay, just before I carry on, I am going to say about platinum-haired bimbos, hey, but that's fine, that's fine.
I was not thinking of you.
I don't know where to start. There's so many things I want to ask you. I do want to say you made my mum. I know this is an awful thing, you know, when someone says, "Oh, my mum loves your books," and you kind of go, oh, God, you know. And my answer is always, "Oh, my granny's got those shoes." But I love your book as well. But my mum, I sent one to my mum, and she loved it, and she said you made her laugh and cry. So I did want to be sure and get that in.
Oh, thank you.
But,
That's
so
wonderful. Thank you.
there's 2 questions I want to ask. One about publishing and one about Michael. Which one do you want first?
I'll take publishing first. Alex,
Okay.
for 20.
Oh, trouble in paradise. Okay. So did you have any kind of snash? That's not an American word. Did you have any kind of pushback about having a breast cancer survivor and speaking openly and so refreshingly and so like heartwarmingly, but you know, openly about living flat?
Well, are you talking about, okay, so when I wrote the book, you mean from, okay.
Yeah,
So,
in a cozy,
yeah,
particularly
okay.
in a cozy, yeah.
Yeah, actually, thank you for asking that. So last August, I went to my very first major writers conference at the Book Passage in Corte Madera. And I was terrified because I brought 20 pages and you can submit it for critique. And there were all these amazing people going to be there, including New York Times bestselling authors, New York publishers. So, and you pay and you get their critique. So I submitted to one. It was somebody I didn't know. I'd never read this person's, I'm not saying whether they're male or female, this author's work, but I submitted to this one author, and then I submitted to an editor from St. Martin's Press, and then I also submitted to a freelance editor. And the first person I met with was this New York Times bestselling author. And by the way, what I forgot to say is I had just the week before sent the finished product to my agent. I'd spent money and had it professionally edited, and it was ready to go. And he said, yes, I can sell this. I'm going to start selling it. So I went, but I still wanted to get feedback from other people. Well, the first person said, oh, she said, well, first, where are you in the publishing process? And I told her, and she goes, this needs work. I went, okay. And I'm trying not to cry and get upset, but she said, your opening line's funny. This is funny, but she had some, and then she thought there was a little bit too much of the breast stuff, I already said she, whoops, he, she, whatever. This person thought there was a bit too much.
Smooth.
Yes. And then actually, basically kind of redlined my manuscript line by line, which I just wanted to cry, but I didn't. I kept it together. And she said it needs, so when I left that one, I just wanted to crawl in a hole and just cry somewhere. And so then I was meeting with this New York editor from St. Martin's, who was a man. And I had the chance to hear him. And he talked about that he usually edits suspense. And I thought, oh, darn, I've given a cozy. So I walked in and I apologized. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you didn't. He says, oh, no, you're fine. He goes, oh my gosh, I loved it. And he went on, and I went, oh, really? Because so-and-so said. He goes, oh, she doesn't do frothy. Don't worry. Oh, okay. So he kept saying lots of lovely things that, oh, you've got all the elements of a cozy. You've got the food, you got the cute dog. He says, my mouth was salivating over that kringle. And he says, but I just kept looking at it and going, because the way you open it about the breasts and then the this, and he kept.
Say the first line, Laura. Can you say the first line?
Oh, sure. Yes, I will.
Yeah.
The very first line of the book is, I miss my breasts occasionally. And then I go into a humorous bit about that. But that's how it started. And he said, so for him, he said, I love all the cozy stuff, but that just, it just took me aback. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I kept reading. And he goes, and I just honestly don't know if that will fly in cozy world. And he was concerned, but he said lots of other nice things. And then he says, however, I don't edit cozies, but I'll take it back to my colleague in New York. When he said that, I thought, oh my God, an editor from St. Martin's is going to hand carry my manuscript back to his colleague. So I was thrilled to bits. And he says, but he says, I don't want you to, if it gets rejected, because it just doesn't seem like that will fit in cozy world to me. If it gets rejected, he says, don't give up because you're a natural cozy writer. So I thought, okay, great. So that was, good, but still not, this is the best thing and I want to publish it. He was concerned about the whole breast cancer aspect and all of that. Then I met with this marvelous young freelance editor named Zoe Quinton, who's Laurie R. King's daughter. Yeah. And the first words out of her mouth was, oh my God, I love this. She said, it's fresh and it's edgy and it's wonderful. And I went, really? And then I cried, of course. But thank God, Crooked Lane felt the same way. They loved the fact that it had that and a woman going through menopause because it's real. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting if there are like 100-ish cozy fans here in the sidebar. I can't imagine that the cozy audience, which is predominantly women, and any woman alive knows someone who has been through, if not breast cancer, then a breast cancer scare or a cancer. I cannot imagine anyone in the cozy audience having a problem with it. It's life. Not to mention the menopause. Right, I'm going to ask my Michael question there, and then I'm going to shut up because I've been hogging you so badly and let Eileen step in with some questions. But here's my Michael question. This is my professional literary interviewer style question. Arundhati Roy once said, no, but that writer Arundhati Roy once said that she writes she never writes mothers and daughters. And her daughter is also a writer. And she says she thinks that's because there's nothing to work out. There's nothing to work through. And my sisters always give me a hard time because I never write anyone with sisters. And I say to them, but that's because there's nothing to work out. There's nothing to write. There's nothing to work through. There's nothing to write. There's nothing I need to do. For God's sake, don't tell mum this theory because, oh my God. But I wonder, is that why you're right? Right? Is that why your heroines are single? Because of Michael? Like, do you think there's anything in that? There's nothing, you don't need to
Oh, I see
work
what you're saying.
through
Oh, right.
the
Okay.
trauma of your marriage. Like your heroines are single because Michael is perfection.
Oh, that's so sweet. He's going to love hearing that. That's part of it, but I think the other part for me, I will tell you, because there is a little bit of a romance in here, a bit. There's definitely a potential love interest. That was the hardest thing for me to write. I don't know about you guys, but to write a love scene and to write a kid, I didn't know how to write that. I thought, oh, I could never write a romance novel. I couldn't do all heaving bosoms and, longing looks. And that was the hardest part of this to write, passion. Now that's going to make people go, oh my God, what's wrong with her marriage? But no, it was just, that was
Well, not
hard
if
for me
you
to
use
write.
if you use the Arundhati Roy theory, you can't write it because everything's fine, right?
Right.
The
Exactly.
things that we can write are the things that we need to be working through.
Right.
But,
There.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a much more sensible answer. Of course, she's got to be single if there's going to be a love interest. Otherwise,
Right.
that's adultery and that's not cozy. Right.
No,
Got it.
definitely not.
Okay. Eileen, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Unmute myself there. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Eileen.
So one of the things I enjoy in cozies the most is the community that the writer builds up around the main character. And I just wanted to know if you would like to speak a little bit to how you built Teddy's group of friends, and were there things that you were trying to communicate there about her or her world with the company that she keeps?
Yes, well, I love women. I love girlfriends, and I have lots of girlfriends, and I now have you and Catriona as my girlfriend, writing girlfriends, which is delightful and wonderful. And I just think I love strong women, and I love women supporting other women. And so I want to see that on the page. I wanted to see good friends. And so I created two best friends for Teddy. Shar and Sharon are her best friends from grade school. Now that again was an interesting stretch because I don't know anyone from grade school. I grew up in Racine, but we moved when I was 14, and I have no idea where those people are or what happened to my grade school friends. But I wanted to show, three women, and I call them the Three Musketeers, and that they always have each other's back. They're each different in their own way, but that they're strong, united friends. And I wanted to do that. And the names too, as I mentioned earlier, with Murder Most Sweet, because I am taking it back to my Racine hometown. I had a favorite Aunt Shar, the one who worked at Western Printing, who passed away a few years ago. So I wanted to honor her. So I made her Teddy's best friend who owns a bookstore, because my aunt loved to read. So I made her. And then my aunt Sharon, who still lives in Racine, I made her and her husband Jim. I put their names in there. I was trying to, I don't know if authors are supposed to do this or not, but I thought, what if I never write any more mysteries? I want to just kind of honor the people in my life that I love. So I put in a bunch of names of people. I got their permission. And so I put Sharon and Jim, and I made them own a bed and breakfast. And part of that was because I love bed and breakfast. But the main thing was to show women friendships. And I love doing that. I also had a cousin on my other side, Joanne Lapointe, who just passed away last year. And so she makes a small appearance in the book too. And I just love celebrating the friendships of women. And that was important for me to show.
Well, it definitely shows. It was such a warm and lovely place to be. I was happy for Teddy that she had such great friends. I was also happy for her because she has a really fun dog, a rescue dog named Gracie.
Yes.
I was wondering, is Gracie based on a real dog?
Yes, she is. I never had a dog growing up. My brothers did, but I was such a bookworm. I was always hidden away somewhere reading. So I didn't pay attention to the dog. It was kind of there. But when Michael and I got married, and after we'd been married a few years, and after the cancer, and we realized then I wouldn't wouldn't be having children. He grew up with dogs, and we said we would like to have a dog. So after about 5 years, we wanted to get it from a rescue group. So we went around, but I had never had a dog before. And for you dog lovers, this is how I was. I said, all right, well, it can't shed. It must be cinnamon color because that's my favorite color. And it can't have a long tail, and it can't be too tall, and it can never get in the bed, and blah, blah, blah. I had all these rules. And so we started going around to different shelter groups looking for a dog that would meet my criteria. And then as we were at the pound, and we were looking at a chow that was a little bit aggressive, and this lady next to us heard us talking, and she goes, I have a little American Eskimo that we recently rescued that might work. And would you like to look? And I said, sure. So she brought her out. And my first thought was, oh, she's white. She's not cinnamon. And, so ridiculous. So, because I knew nothing. And so she said, you can try her for a bit. I have cats. She doesn't like cats, but please take her home. And then if it doesn't work, within 2 weeks, bring her back. So in the car on the way home, those of you who have pets, here I am holding this darling little rescued American Eskimo, who, by the way, because she'd been found wandering, she was emaciated and had some health problems, and her hair was very short. So I'm holding this little dog, and she's shivering in my arms, and I'm just falling in love with her. And then she proceeds to throw up on my foot. And in that moment, I became a dog mom, and I fell head over heels in love with her. And so we named her Gracie after Princess Grace of Monaco, because she was also a blonde beauty. And we had Gracie for many years, but she died about 10 years ago. And then we got our current dog, Melly, who's a Tibetan Spaniel mix, another rescue. But as those of you who've seen the cover of the book is a white American Eskimo, and her name is Gracie. So I honored my first dog as well. And now I love dogs. Can't imagine my life without one.
I just want to remind people there's a place at the bottom if you want to ask questions yourself. I've got a few more. So, so Laura, cozy protagonists are never cops or private eyes, yet most of them have some kind of special skills based on what they do for a living or for their hobbies that help them solve their mysteries. What special skills does Teddy have that help her solve her mystery? And is it because she writes mysteries, or for some other aspects of her life?
I would say in that case, we're going back to my total pantser thing here. I didn't think about that very much. I just thought, well, part of the way I could do it is because I made her write cozy mysteries. So I tried to weave that in a little bit. I don't think her baking helps that much in solving the mystery, but it makes it, so you're never hungry. And actually she does at one point, because her one of her closest friends is the sheriff in town, Sheriff Brady Wells, who is the boyfriend of her best friend Shar. And so she tries to butter the sheriff up by baking him his favorite cookies, which are Futteman buckles. If there's any Norwegians out there, Futteman buckles. And they're a delightful Christmas Norwegian cookie that my grandma used to make, but you actually put it in lard and you have to deep fry it, and then it's rolled into a powdered sugar. So so the actual baking doesn't help, but she did try to, weasel information out of her sheriff friend, but it didn't work. But yeah, I think mainly, again, because I'm not a plotter, I thought, well, the only way that I could sort of tie it would have her writing cozy mysteries as well. So I do that. So the book is peppered with funny little asides from both Teddy and Gracie, by the way. So like in the section you read, there was part where she says, oh, thank you, chemo. That was one of them. And it doesn't get any better than this, when it clearly could get a lot better than that. It was, for me, when I was reading, it was so much fun because it felt like I was going even deeper into her point of view. But you were careful with them. You never overdid them. And I was wondering if you had any kind of a plan about what you wanted to do that way and when you wanted to do it. Well, you use that word plan, Eileen.
Again.
Laura does not plan anything. But I rewrite like crazy. So in the first draft, of course, the first draft, I just was getting the story out because I didn't know what was going to happen. Once I found out, oh, that happened. Okay. Then I went through and I do a lot of, I think I did a little in my chicklet as well. Internal dialogue. Remember Ally McBeal, the show Ally McBeal, and how you'd always see what Ally's thinking. Well, I kind of I did that in my chicklet. So I continued that here. But then because I had this dog, I'm just besotted with my dog. What can I tell you? And Michael and I talk to our dog all the time, and we have probably 25 different names for her. I mean, now we don't have Gracie, we have Melly. So there's Melly, and then sometimes her lip gets stuck up like in an Elvis thing, and we go, oh, it's Melvis. You're doing your Melvis impression. And so we talk to her like with that baby talk that you do. Oh, who's a pretty girl and all of that. And when she looks at us with those beautiful eyes, you know what she's thinking or saying. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be kind of fun to put a bit of that in what the dog is thinking? Now, in the second draft, I had way too much because it was like, then there's italics everywhere because you have to, I mean, there are different editors who have different ways they don't want italics, but my editor, thankfully, said when it's in Teddy's head or in Gracie's head, it needs to be in italics so people know that that's a thought. But at first there were way too many, so I cut them down a lot. But there's still quite a bit because I do find that it adds extra layers to it.
I thought it was charming.
Oh, thank you.
It was really sweet. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that you're a breast cancer survivor, and so is Teddy. And we've talked a lot about the humor that you use. And I think that's a wonderful way of getting through a lot of stuff. But do you feel that being a breast cancer survivor impacted your worldview? And do you think that translated somewhat into your novel and how Teddy views the world?
Yes, very much so. I was diagnosed 28 years ago, the day after my first wedding anniversary. It was Michael and I had been married 1 year and 1 day. And it was happy anniversary, you have cancer. So not exactly what we were hoping for as a wedding gift for that first paper plastic anniversary. So, but again, humor has always been a huge part of who I am. And everybody, when you find out you have cancer, everybody in your world is terrified. I mean, I was terrified, of course. You hear cancer and you think death. You think I'm going to die. This could kill me. And I was absolutely terrified. And I cried and I freaked out. And then I went, because again, I'm a former journalist. It's like, okay, let me find out. I need to do my research. I want to know everything I can so I can make the most informed decision. But I want to do it fast because I don't want this thing growing inside me any longer than possible. So within a week, and Michael said he'd support me in whatever decision I made. He didn't care about my breasts. He wanted to have me. And so, in fact, after my mastectomy, and I know I've told the story already, and I know Catriona got a little teary, but when Michael first saw my mastectomy scar, he kissed it and he said, I love this scar because it means I'm going to have you with me for a long time. So see, that was after just 1 year of marriage. So I got a good one. And thank God for that. I remember going back to church a few weeks later, and one woman at church came up to me and said, this was a different church. We won't go there. But anyway, we don't go there anymore. But she said, oh, honey, how is your husband doing? You guys are still on your honeymoon. And then she said, don't worry, you can still nurse with only one breast. It's like, excuse me? I wasn't even thinking that, but oh God. Anyway, the things people say. But yes, it was terrifying. It was frightening. But thank God, I'm here 28 years later. I had the chemo from hell. And I wanted to show a little bit. I mean, in the book, you don't see Teddy's chemotherapy. You hear just little brief mentions of this and that. But the whole choosing to go flat thing for me, which was a few years ago, part of that was inspired because when I had precancerous lumps in my remaining breast and the insurance wasn't going to cover it, I wanted a mastectomy and they said no, unless you have the genetic predisposition. And so I did. But the surgeon, the male surgeon in his early 70s, when Michael and I went in there and met with him about doing the mastectomy, he kept looking at Michael and saying, well, you're having reconstruction, aren't you? And then he'd look at Michael. I mean, really? Are you kidding me? And Michael said, that's her choice. And she's already done that. And it was a problem. And she doesn't want to do that. We're not going that route. But it's like, really? So I wanted to show that a woman can still be attractive and dynamic and wonderful without, you don't need to have breasts. I mean, what the heck are the purpose of the breasts? The purpose of breasts are to feed a child, to nurse a child. That is their biological function. Yes, they're fun for the person and your partner, but I didn't mean to be talking about this on here, but anyway, but their only biological function is to nurse a child. I didn't have kids, so what the heck? So I wanted to see a character who could be an attractive, dynamic, fun woman who is attractive to someone else, and she doesn't need to have breasts. And I wanted to show that. So I that's what I tried to do.
I wasn't anticipating asking this question, but can we all marry Michael?
Oh, he probably wouldn't mind.
Well, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention Teddy's scarves. She has just the most amazing, beautiful scarf collection. So I was going to ask, does it resemble your scarf collection?
It is very much my scarf collection. I call myself the Queen of Scarves. When I was working full time, I retired from the state of California in May. Yes. But when I went to work every day, I always wore scarves, because here's the thing. When you don't have breasts anymore, you don't need to wear a bra. And I mean, unless you want to stuff it with the prosthesis, which those suckers are heavy and uncomfortable and hot. So I'm like, I'm not wearing that. I don't need to ever wear a bra again. So, but because I'm not completely flat, it's a little bit concave, it makes people uncomfortable. So I wear scarves, and scarves are fun and scarves are pretty, and that's how I deal with it. So that's what I did for Teddy as well.
They're wonderful. I was like jealous of them as I was reading about them.
Thank you.
Well, I think that is coming to the end of the questions. Oh, I did want to ask just one more little thing about the town. I mean, I know you mentioned that it's sort of based on Racine, where you grew up, but it's a little more special than that. You want to talk a little bit about how you created the town and what it is that you wanted to show with that?
Okay, let me think if I can remember that. Well, I mean, I wanted, in Racine, when I was growing up in Racine had 80,000 people. And to me, that seemed like a lot, but compared to, of course, a major city, that's more small townish. But I didn't really want to show necessarily the factory aspects per se, but I really wanted to focus on those amazing Racine bakeries in a part of town not far from where we lived. Is called West Racine. And I noticed that there's, in the comments, I see that Connie Berry is in there, and she is also a wonderful mystery author, and she grew up in Racine too, so she knows what I'm talking about. But there's all these amazing bakeries, and you would go, and it was a treat, because my family, we did not have much money. We were pretty poor, but it was a treat to go in, and which kringle are we going to get? And back in the day, there were only, I don't know, maybe half a dozen flavors that I can remember. There was pecan, apple, cherry, a few others. Now there's like 40 flavors or something, but it would be a treat to get kringle. And then there's two other things. There would be, there's something called Seven Sisters, which is a coffee cake with these it's a round coffee cake, and the rolls are filled with an almond custard. Oh my God. My sister and I would always fight over the centerpiece because it was the softest. And then for every bridal shower, wedding, birthday, we had Danish layer cake. And my husband, because he is my Renaissance man, my mother never made it. My grandmother never made it, but we would always order it from the Racine bakeries. It's 7 layers of moist yellow cake, and it's got ribbons of raspberry filling and ribbons of custard. So Michael had to try and make it, and he made 3 or 4 before he got to the point. It's not 7 layers, it's 3, I believe. But we tested it out on friends, and he made the Danish layer cake. So there is a recipe for Danish layer cake in the book, but because it's difficult to make and very complicated in making homemade custard, we also put in bits about you can use bird's custard instead. It's okay if you're not a baker. But yeah, I really wanted to honor that whole baking part of my Racine childhood. That's what I put in Lake Potawatomi. And I did make, there's a park, and that's where she takes her dog all the time. And it was sort of my idyllic small town. what I kind of wish where I lived. And I'd love it even more if I lived in England, because, that's that in a stone cottage. But yeah, if I get a bestseller, maybe that'll happen.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a lovely book to read and so much fun. Does anyone else have any questions that they want to pop into the box below?
Everybody's quiet. Everybody's being Catriona.
Yeah.
You started to say something. Oh, Catriona
everybody wants the cake.
Okay. Oh, Catriona looks like she's saying something. Oh, we can't hear her.
I know.
There we go.
What's happened?
There, okay.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been going, I've got a question.
Okay.
First of all, this is not really, I'm doing that thing. This is not a question so much as a comment, but it's a really short one. Thank you for teaching me how to pronounce Kringle, because I was thinking of Santa, right? Yeah. I can't be the only one that didn't know how to pronounce Kringle. Also, I want you to talk about the wool-based special occasion boob. I'm going to let you say the name of it.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. When she went undercover, is that what you're talking about? Yes. Okay. Yes. So she had to go undercover. She was checking out a possible suspect. And because she was a known author, she, changed her hair and put on glasses and all that. But she was known for being a flat-chested author. So to go undercover, I had to give her boobs. So I had her strap on a pair of knitted knockers. They're called knitted knockers. And yes, I have a pair. I do have a pair I don't wear them often. It's like for a special occasion. And they're I should get them and show you. But anyway, they're these delightful things. And it was actually Catriona, a woman in Scotland that I saw on Facebook. It was a picture and she said, oh yes, we knit these and they're lovely because they're so lightweight and they're stuffed with like a quilt batting, but they're the most lightweight and they breathe. And if you've had to wear the prosthesis, which are these heavy silicone things, they weigh 5 or 8 pounds and they're so bloody hot. But knitted knockers are these lightweight. Honey, you want to bring me a knitted knocker? They're these lightweight. They're these lightweight little.
Got to be a first.
Knitted things. That's what she wore. And then, well, I won't say because there's a great scene that after that with her and Tavish and the knitted knockers, but we won't go there because I want you to be surprised by that scene. But yes, knitted knockers. I rarely wear them, only if it's like, if I really feel like, oh, today I mean, the thing about I chose to go flat, but now and then it's like, oh, it'd be nice to have boobs today. So on occasion, I just strap them on.
I love the name. I love the name of them. Right.
Yeah, thanks.
Is he bringing one? I don't know. Do you want to, Laura, I'm going to give you a little prompt. Do you want to talk about your memoir?
Okay. It's not
actually coming out next week.
Okay, now wait. Guess what Michael just brought me? Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is a knitted knocker. Can you see
it?
And look, they even make sort of a bit of a nipple right there. That's a knitted knocker. And it's light, So anyway. But, okay. So it's not actually, I guess you might classify it as a memoir. So it's.
Sorry.
It's all right. I think I got confused because I do have this memoir, which is the book of my soul, which my agent has been trying to sell 5 years, and it's called Resilient. But everybody has turned it down because they say, we love the writing. You have no platform. No one knows who you are. But that was before I wrote my first cozy mystery. So hopefully now that I have more readers, I'll eventually be able to sell it. But the book that's coming, the nonfiction book that's coming out next week is called Thanks for the Mammogram. And I actually wrote it. It came out initially in 2020, 20 years ago. And it's about, and that was fighting cancer with faith, hope, and a healthy dose of laughter. Now it's been changed to living through breast cancer with faith, hope, and laughter. And my publisher is re-releasing it next week. And what I love that they did, and I don't have it in my hands I don't know if Michael will hear me to say, can you bring me a copy? But no, I don't even know if I've gotten a copy yet, come to think of it. But it's on, you can look it up on Amazon. I laughed out loud. I was still working for the state and I used to take light rail to work. And they sent me a copy, a PDF of the cover. And I opened it up and I just burst out laughing because it was hot pink. And on the front cover, it had two cupcakes. And they were white cupcakes with white frosting with cherries on top. And my friend Connie, when I had a bye-bye booby party the night before my second mastectomy, and she brought me Nipples of Venus cupcakes. Nipples of Venus. And so on the cover of this book are these Nipples of Venus cupcakes right there. And I just burst out laughing because they're so funny. But that book is definitely my heart book and the best so far nonfiction book I've written. But the memoir, I really hope it will find a place in the next couple of years because that is the book of my soul.
Yeah.
So here's hoping.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Nobody's using the question feature at the bottom.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the other series that you have starting next year too?
Sure. In fact, Catriona, would you mind terribly turning around and holding that book up? If you don't mind.
Absolutely. I'm just going to pedal back.
Okay. So my second series is called, Murder Most Sweet is in the Bookish Baker series because she writes books and she's a baker. So that's that one. And now this one that Catriona's holding up is called Hope, Faith, and a Corpse. And it's the first in my Faith Chapel series. And it stars an Episcopal woman priest. And so that one is coming out in January. And basically I was kind of writing two cozies at the same time because I had two ideas. And so thankfully Crooked Lane wanted both of them. And they said, yes, we'll do both. So I'm very excited about that too. And I was delighted. Some of my friends, I see them in the comments. I didn't know anything about being an Episcopal priest. I'm an Episcopalian, but being a priest, what? So I was very grateful that Reverend Mary, our rector, allowed me to sit and talk and interview her and tell me bits and pieces. My former rector, my first rector, which was Pastor Mary Hauk, she let me meet with her a couple times and I'd ask a question. And then there's Father George, who's now retired, and he would help me, because I'd say, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't know about you, when you write a book and there's a character who's got a profession you don't know anything about, you don't want it to be wrong. You don't want to be inaccurate. So I thought, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not deeply spiritual and I'm not very theological. I'm kind of shallow and well, you know what I mean? I'm just more light and fun. And so I'm not deeply, deeply spiritual. And I wanted to show, I wanted to get the bits about her being a priest correct, but I also wanted her to be a bit snarky and fun. So, and Catriona, you just finished reading it, right?
Yesterday. Yeah, I just finished it yesterday. Yeah. And what's amazing to me is you were writing these two books at the same time, and Hope and Teddy are nothing like each other.
Oh, good.
I mean, you've got these two heroines, and they're not like, in this one, she's a writer and who bakes, and in this one, she's a priest. It's two completely different people. I thought that was good. I thought what I thought was really funny, because I've just finished it last night, was that everyone around her keeps trying to clean up their language all the time. What the hell? Sorry, heck,
right.
what a total bastard. Sorry, Pastor. And then, but not her. She's not effing and jeffing all over the shop, but she's fairly, she's got a robust tongue in her head. So that I got a lot of fun out of that.
Oh, good. And the part about her that I did take from my life is I'm those who know me well, and some of those people are there in the content the comments. I love old movies. And before COVID, once or twice a month, every couple of months, we would have Trivial Pursuit night. And I'm a bit obnoxious when I play trivia games. I really like to win. And I love old movies and I know everything about old movies. And so once a year on my birthday, I get to play Silver Screen Trivial Pursuit, where it's just strictly old movies. And in the past, there has been times when it was me against the crowd. Then we started doing women and men. And I used to think that I would always beat them, but unfortunately, with Michael and some of the other men, they knew their old movies too. But I thought, I want to weave that old movie love into Hope, Faith, and a Corpse. And, you know, those of us who love movies, whether you love their current or their old, you know, we say favorite lines, or we talk about, oh, remember when Cary Grant did that? It's just a part of life. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to have a priest who loves movies? And so, and then I gave her a character named Susan, and that's named after a friend of mine in church. And there's a character named Virginia after I got their permission. I always do. But I just wanted to have, so Susan and Hope both love old movies, and they have this discussion and this back and forth and sometimes movie lines. So that part of Pastor Hope I made like me.
It's very natural. And it's very, a couple of times when I was reading it, I was so expecting the line that came, you know, from the movie that because of what's in the scene, you're expecting the line that's going to come. So it seems really natural to me.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you're right. Everybody does that. Everybody's got different movies. And the funny thing is, when you say your movie line that you say to someone who's never seen it, and they just go, what? You know, then you have to go into this long explanation. Yeah. But I'm going to hold this one up again, because that's what we're talking about with the dog.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And I forgot to say to everybody, so my author photo, which I love, a photographer friend that I worked with at the state, Brian Barry, is amazing. He did this gorgeous, dropped it. I thought, oh my God, I look so gorgeous. And I had beautiful red hair, but that was pre-COVID. So now it's a bit light. And so it's actually silver now in real life, but it sort of looks blonde here, but I'm really not a blonde, but it's COVID hair. So there you go.
I think we all have a bit of case of COVID hair going.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, anyone? I can't believe nobody's asking a question.
Everybody's too busy just talking about how much they're enjoying the talk and the book.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of nice comments on the side.
Oh, good.
The question then, the ceremonial question at this stage of the proceedings, what's next? Like, what order is it? I know the Thanks for the Mammograms coming next week.
Yes.
What after that?
Okay, then Hope, Faith, and a Corpse comes in January. And then the second bookish Baker mystery, which is called Deadly Delights. I just turned in the final edits to my editor. In fact, I heard from my editor today at Crooked Lane Books, and she goes, yes, she had one last question. I answered it, and she goes, okay, good. I'm sending it to production. So that will come out next June. And then at the moment, I'm not contracted for anything else. So I hope, crossed fingers, that if my sales will be decent enough that my publisher will want to do more with me. They've asked me for ideas, if I have ideas for well, they did. Actually, they first said, do you have an outline of the next? I said, oh, outline. I don't outline. But I just did a synopsis of a few ideas. In fact, one of the ideas I have for Teddy is one called Killer Kringle. And it's not just about the Kringle you eat. It would be a Christmas book.
Yes.
Killer Kringle. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see if that happens. I hope. But again, that's not up to me. That's up to the publisher. And that's up to people buying the book. So please, please, please buy my books so I can keep writing cozy mysteries. Because this is the most fun I've ever had writing. I love it. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there is that memoir, The Book of My Soul, which is called Resilient. And basically it's about... just not to be a downer, but it is the book of my soul, and it's about surviving rape and breast cancer and a series of interesting churches throughout my life before looking for the right spiritual home. So that is definitely the heaviest book I've ever written, but there's still humor because that's who I am. I think the subtitle, if I can remember now, is Confessions of a Mostly Good Girl. That's what it is. Resilient, Confessions of a Mostly Good Girl.
I'd buy that in a second.
Yeah, I'm in. I am in on that one. Absolutely.
So that's what's up for me. Oh, there's some questions.
Eileen, there's a couple new questions in the box.
Okay, good.
I'm finding, how long does it generally take you to write your cozy books?
Okay. The first one, I was working full time while I was writing. So, you know, when you work 8-hour days, kind of tough. And I'm not a good night writer. I'm best in the morning. So I'd say the first one, and it wasn't solid writing like I wrote every night. So maybe close to a year, because my agent said before we can sell it, you have to write the entire book. So the first book I did write was Hope, Faith, and a Corpse, and that got rejected from a few publishers. And he said, well, I said, okay, I have another one. And so then I took, I don't know, 8-9 months to write the second one. But then I got my contract, yay. And then I will honestly tell you, COVID, I don't know about you guys, but COVID knocked me for a loop when it first started. I was terrified because I'm in some high risk groups, and I couldn't, not only could I not write, and I had a contract, I had a July 1 due date for Deadly Delights, the second Bookish Baker mystery. And I was still working at the state, and I worked at the state till May 20th, and the book was due less than a month and a half later. For all of April, for part of March and all of April, I could not write a word. I would try. I just couldn't. I couldn't read. Reading's my very favorite thing to do in the entire world. No matter whose book, I don't know if anybody else was gripped by. I've never had that kind of anxiety in my life. I hope to never have it again. And so then suddenly, when I retired, I went, oh my God, I've got I had only 6 chapters or 7 chapters written, and it was due in less than 2 months. So I got my agent got me a 2-week extension, and then I wrote like a mad woman, 10 and 12-hour days. And I basically wrote Deadly Delights in 2.5, well, aside from the first 6 chapters, about 2.5 months. But I don't ever want to do that again, because that was killer. I would say my publisher did ask, how often can you write a book? And I said, if I'm not working, now that I'm retired, I could see that I could write a book in 4 months. I could write a cozy in 4 months, because cozies are shorter than, longer, deeper, suspenseful mystery novel. Cozies are short. So I feel like I could write a book in 4 months. So I could do perhaps 3 cozies a year. Maybe, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm a fast writer. And that's, again, thanks to being a journalist.
How did you, so Marianne Dickinson's asking, how did you first get a book published, and was it hard to get your first manuscript recognized?
That was so many years ago, 1995. So God, how many years ago was that? Somebody do the math. I'm dreadful at math. I went to a writer's conference, and actually I had been working in a dreadful job that I didn't like in marketing, and I was worrying about gourmet tomato products, and I had to write marketing copy for gourmet tomato products in Lodi, of all things. And the owner of this private company was a very wealthy man, and his wife decided she'd always wanted to write a cookbook. Well, because she was so wealthy, she took $50,000 and hired a ghostwriter. And that just made me mad. I got ticked off. I thought, what the heck? She's not even a writer, and she's going to have a book out there. So shortly thereafter, it just really annoyed me. So shortly thereafter, I quit that job. And the cancer, just like in the book, Teddy, cancer compelled me to follow my writing dreams. After I got breast cancer, and you do face the prospect you could die, it's like, what have I always wanted to do? And for me, my whole life since the first grade was write books. So I started that, but it took that rich lady paying an author $50,000 to tick me off and say, all right, I'm going to write something. But I had only done journalism. I didn't know how to write a book. So I took an idea. I took some concepts to this writers conference. But I didn't know you need to bring a chapter because I knew nothing. And all I did was have some concepts and some chapter titles. And 2 people said, well, I have nothing to read. So I had brought in a magazine article too about coping with cancer with humor. And I tacked that onto this book about dating. It was a humorous book on dating. And that editor, when he met with me, said, oh my God, I guffawed. It was 3:00 in the morning, and I just guffawed. And I went, you did? You guffawed? Oh, I guffawed. I was so excited. And so we began a dialogue. It was a book on being a single woman in the church trying to find a guy and blah, blah, blah. And at that time, this was in the Christian market. And I used to be in these Christian singles groups for years and years and years and years. And thank God Michael saved me from that. But so I had lots of fun stories about, being a Christian single. And at that time, the publisher said, singles books don't sell. It's like, alrighty then. So the next year I came back with a new book idea, and Michael's title, Dated Jekyll, Married Hyde. And that because, you know, I'm the Hyde in our marriage. No, not only about camping. Actually, I hate it. But so that book came out in 97. So I went to a writing conference in 95, met somebody. The next year I came back and that book came out in 97. And then over the next 12 years, I wrote 17 books. And then I was burned out and exhausted and I got a job at the state and I just couldn't write anymore. But thank God it's come back because I even said, and people who know me said, I never want to write another book again. I'm done with the writing. I've had it. I'm done. And they said, okay. And a few years later, then I started. So there you go.
And we're really glad you did. I love that you flounced off to write your first book. That's just so perfect. I've never heard of anyone writing their debut book because they were pissed off about something. That's just brilliant.
Well, wouldn't you if you heard that this woman who didn't have a bit of writing, you know, cojones to her name, she just because she had money, she could get published? That just ticked me off. And I went, well, I can write. So there you go. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up. It's about the hour mark. And I wanted to let everybody know that while the event was going on, I pre-selected a couple of people in attendance tonight to win either a book, Murder Most Sweet, or Laura is donating I'm going to say it wrong. I'm going to say it Kringle.
You got it. You got it.
Okay, so Kringle that she's having sent straight from Wisconsin. So the person who is winning the book, Murder Most Sweet, is Virginia Henry. So I am going to put my email address in the chat box down here so that you, Virginia, if you could email me so that I can get your mailing address and your email, obviously. And the person who's winning the Kringle is Pam Land. So hopefully Pam is on here. If you are, Pam, can you say something in the chat to the right so that I know that you're still on here?
And if you're not, Heidi, you could always, I'll see that she gets it.
Okay, so you know each other.
No, I don't. I'm kidding. No.
I do know.
Is she gonna get all of it, Catriona, or just what's left?
But I will chat with Pam because I'll ask her what's her favorite flavor. So
okay, perfect. Okay, and then Virginia, do either of you know her?
Actually,
I can't
you
tell
know, when
if
you
she's
said
still
the name,
on.
I thought, oh my gosh, that's one of my good friends. So I'm glad you picked it, and it's not.
I picked it. I just randomly scrolled. It was like spin the wheel.
Yeah.
And those names came up. So I will coordinate with you, Laura, on their details. Okay.
Great.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and you know, if we can't have you guys in the store in person, then this is the next best thing. But I do look forward to hopefully the next event can be in the store too, and we'll always be streaming these things from now on because they're very popular, and we'll be able to reach a lot more of you who aren't able to come to the store. So hopefully that'll be sometime soon. But thank you to Catriona and Eileen, and especially Laura, for writing a great book. It's been a fun evening, and I'm glad it looks like everybody enjoyed it. So,
yes, thanks for having us, Heidi. It's so much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you for doing this.
Okay,
all right,
so we're gonna end now. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Congratulations, Laura. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.